All right, 97.7 Outlaw Radio FM listeners, we have none other than the legendary, the last emperor, right here, right now, on the line. How are you doing this evening?
Yeah, what up? One, two, three, in the place to be. I go by the divine title of TLE, the last emperor. Guaranteed to give you more, and I just got back from another world tour. What up?
Hey, man, that's what's up. I'm doing pretty good. I want to ask, how are you doing out there during this terrible pandemic, man? 2020 is in turmoil right now.
Well, I'll say this. In conjunction to the obvious pandemic, definitely my deepest meditations go out to everyone who's had to endure anything physically as a result. It's been a tumultuous year thus far. And as we speak, my hometown of West Philly is going through some incursions of a different type in terms of many of the outbreaks of physical frustration as a result of the death of George Floyd. So my hometown, my immediate neighborhood is going through it right now. So everybody out there who's able to, you know, at least police themselves and deal with some sort of refinement themselves. We understand your frustration. We understand how everyone feels about the death of Mr. Floyd, but let's begin to heal in a more positive way.
Most definitely agreed. And I have to say, just rest in peace to him, man. That was such a senseless act, and he should still be here with us today, you know? So just rest in peace to George Floyd, you know? His memory most definitely will live on.
Absolutely.
So I have to ask you, Emperor, from the beginning, what made you decide to get into the music industry?
Basically, growing up in West Philly, being exposed to hip hop at its inception, loving the culture, loving the art form, loving the energy that it creates and permeates, and the way it permeates people and gives the oppressed and downtrodden a voice. I was always into writing rhymes. You know, I can remember being a Sarah Junior High and writing rhymes. I can remember breakdancing and being a real good pop locker and all of that. Trying my hand at graffiti. So even the other art forms within the overall scope of hip hop led me to become an active participant. Now, in terms of literally becoming a part of the industry and industrialized hip hop, pretty much that journey began pretty much in college. Um, Lincoln University, I attended from 1990 through 95, and many people that were around me knew I had a gift for putting words together, and they encouraged me to pursue that professionally.
And I have to say this because one of my favorite songs that you ever made was actually in '97. You released this single, "Secret Wars Part 2," that actually was like a rap about superheroes. I have to ask you, what made you decide to make that type of particular song, and also what's the story behind it?
Yeah, definitely a combination of things. I grew up obviously loving uh, Marvel comics, loving comic books, period, loving that, part of at one point was counterculture and became popular culture, just the whole comic book experience. The way that people like Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, and all of those guys were able to create these iconic characters and form somewhat of a modern day mythology for the rest of us to enjoy and embrace. And just iconic characters, Spider-Man, the Incredible Hulk, as far as DC is concerned, and obviously, Marvel is concerned. And as far as DC is concerned, rather, Batman, Superman, the Justice League, all of those characters. These people have created characters that, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, we still love and embrace and that we see on the big screen. I, as a small child, at the same time that I was getting involved in music and hip hop, I was also involved in exploring comic books. So I like to say, much in the same fashion that the Wu Tang was able to tap into a universal love martial arts films that we used to watch in the early 80s, late 70s. I pretty much did the same thing for hip hop and its relation to Marvel Comics. And to be frank, many of the hip hop artists and lyricists that I love, they always had that sort of supernatural superpower to me that was much, I always likened to my favorite comic book characters. Thus, we would have a fight between uh, Reggie Noble and the Incredible Hulk, or a fight between the Jizza, the Genius, and Doctor Strange. So to me, it just started out as something somewhat of a hobby. I cultivated the hobby. I would, in my early days of performing in the early 90s to mid 90s, it was just a skit that I would do between songs. And it developed into a full out song because many of, again, my peers, my friend Taiki, who helped put together my first demo, my homeboy Q, they just encouraged me to make a full song out of it. And it took a little bit of time. We actually first recorded it, if I'm not mistaken, in 1995, but it didn't get pressed for release until 97.
And one thing I've always wanted to ask you, when you made that song, obviously, like as you know, it's about superheroes. Like when you were a kid growing up, were you a Marvel or a DC guy type of individual? And also, what was your favorite superhero?
I definitely would have to say both. I know people may say that that's just the diplomatic answer because I don't want to ruffle the feathers on either side, but both. I mean, let's face it, the story arc of someone like Kal-El, who's the last son of Krypton, who, I mean, the implications and the symbolism behind the Superman character in general is so deep that I don't even know if we have time to go into that. But just for someone from another planet to fall from the stars, to be here on Earth and help, quote unquote, humanity. I mean, it doesn't get that much better than that. But then when you look at the Marvel side of things, for someone like Captain America, who's imparted with the super soldier serum, who also fights for basically truth, justice, and the American way, and all the iconic characters that Marvel has brought. I mean, to this day, I mean, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I mean, I could literally go on forever. Um, but I would have to actually say my favorite all-time character that I would hope could make its way to the big screen is now with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We've seen what happened with the Avengers. I would like them to explore Alpha Flight, who is also a powerful team out of Canada, and my favorite character from Alpha Flight happens to be Sasquatch.
That would actually be a phenomenal movie. Now that you say it and I think of that, that would be a phenomenal movie.
Absolutely.
So going back into the hip hop side of things, you were also featured in a verse on KRS One's CIA Criminals in Action. I have to ask you, what was that experience like, and how did you get connected with KRS One?
That experience was like going from the minor leagues to the majors overnight. Like being a minor league baseball player, let's say, and you just get a random phone call. You think no one uh, bears witness to your talent, and you just get a phone call out of the blue, and they say, you know what, tomorrow you start a major league on a major league roster, and you're playing for the Phillies. I mean, it was literally like that. KRS One, believe it or not, I had a few run-ins with prior to the CIA record. In fact, going back, if I'm not mistaken, as far as 1995, I had the opportunity to open up a homecoming concert at Lincoln University, in which I attended. Uh, I was the opening act. KRS-One was the headliner, and he gave me the stamp of approval in front of all my peers at the university, and was like, "Yo, that kid right there, he's hip hop." And ever since then, I've just, I mean, obviously I grew up listening to all his records. I mean, hands down, he's the teacher. So that was my first experience with KRS. So when I got the call to potentially be on a track with himself, and then on top of being on a track with the teacher, Zach De La Rocha of Rage Against the Machine. I was already many people may think that I might have just been familiar with him as a result of being on that record, but I was already a fan of records like Bulls on Parade. I was already aware of the work that he did with the Zapatistas and speaking out for the Nia Abu Jamal. I mean, to me he epitomized what music was all about. So to be in the middle of having both of these guys, we recorded all at the same time. It wasn't one of those situations where somebody's vocal gets flown in or whatever. We met, I think, once or twice before we recorded the record. So I mean, it was surreal. The day that we recorded it, it was like a dream come true to be in the company of two titans in their own respective genres.
Was that the only time that you had the opportunity to work with KRS-One, or like do you guys have other projects actually out? Sorry, out.
Yeah, we actually did another record together. I don't think it ever came out on any particular project. I remember a song. I think it was called like Yeah 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 or something like that. It was myself, KRS One, Young Z, Pace One, and Tuffy from Channel Live. Um, every now and then I've been able to hear it. People will play it for me. I think I heard it on the internet once or twice. I don't know whatever happened to that record, but yeah, we definitely all got busy on that record as well.
And also, you appeared as a guest, as the guest MC for the Gorillas. I have to ask you, how did you get connected with the Gorillas, and what was it like working with them?
Hey man, listen, I've had the most surreal situations in my career where many people, as far as mainstream rap is concerned, they may have never heard of the last record, but those who know really know and do their homework. So I'm a firm practicer of putting things into the universe and speaking them into existence. I already wanted to work with the Gorillas. The first time I saw the video with them and Dell, um, and the single that they had with Dell, the Funky Homo Sapien. Um, to me, I was like, yo, this is what hip hop is all about. The animation was really dope. Dell, of course, always the rhymes were really dope. It just was a marriage made in heaven, as they say. Now, for some reason, when they went on their world tour, I think Dell was ill and he wasn't able to complete the tour. So my mentor, Prince Paul, in conjunction with Dan the Automator out of the West Coast, were looking for an MC who was not only willing to go on the tour, but also just kind of vibe and gel with Gorillas. And, I got the call, and the rest is history. 13 city world tour. The final date was in Mexico City. We did a stadium, whatever stadium or arena that is, in Mexico City. I had the opportunity to visit Teotihuacan, which is the pyramid of the sun in Central America. And I mean, what can I say, man? It just was a dream come true.
And when you said a few moments ago about how not a lot of people might not know about The Last Emperor, I look at it this way. If you are an East Coast hip hop fan, and especially a Philadelphia hip hop fan as well, you gotta know who The Last Emperor is. You have to, man. Because you are a legendary individual within the East Coast part of hip hop.
I give thanks, man. I give thanks. And again, I appreciate your platform for allowing me. I mean, I went and listened to uh, the majority of two other interviews, like I believe Billy Dan's and also Positive K. And I'm a huge fans of those individuals. So I mean, for you guys to even want to have me on this platform on the heels of people like that, man, it's just awesome. And I appreciate you for having me.
And I'm going to be honest before I move into the next question here. Like, when you say that, I'm going to be honest with you. I put you in that stature with those guys as well because, you've worked with KRS-One. You were Dr. Dre's protege. You were signed to Aftermath Records, which that's actually one of my next questions. I'm getting ahead of myself here. But I just have to say, don't count yourself short because you are a legend. And I'm saying this not from an interviewer to an artist, but to a fan. From a fan to an artist, man. Like, you did some amazing stuff within hip hop.
My man, I appreciate you. Salute to you, bro. Salute.
And since I gave away the next question, I have to actually bring this up. Like, you were also, as we already know, like 2 years after you moved to New York, you signed to Aftermath Entertainment and became a protege of Dr. Dre. How did like that formation come to be? Like, how did you ended up meet? How did you end up meeting Dr. Dre?
Yeah, again, at Lincoln University, which is like a very, very pivotal point in my career and my life in general. Uh, another good brother that I know named Damon Johnson, my man Dame Dollars. Before he left Lincoln, he told me he was going to pursue a job working on videos. His brother had a company called Geronimo Films, and they were going to be doing videos for Dr. Dre. He told me that he sometimes kept the company of Dr. Dre and the likes, and said, "Listen, man, I heard your demo. I think it's really dope. I want to play it for Dr. Dre. I think it's something that he may be able to get into." So he kept his word. I gave him a copy of the demo. He took it out to LA with him, and sometime later, I got a call from Dr. Dre, and it literally happened like that. So salute to my man Damon Johnson, aka Dame Dollars.
And I have to ask one thing on the Dr. Dre part of things. What was he like actually just behind everything? Because like I've never really had the opportunity to really hear any Dr. Dre stories. Like, is he a really nice guy? Like obviously like behind the scenes.
Very, very, very solid guy. Very, very cool. Very, kind of quiet like me until you get to know him. Just a very nice guy, man. Very, well mannered, well spoken, but still at the same time, I mean, this is still Dr. Dre from NWA, so you know that somewhere in there is still that, that experience as well. But we have to keep in mind the time that I encountered Dr. Dre, he was, trying to make some changes in his life. He had, obviously left Death Row Records. He had put out, I think, one project. I know the lead single was like "Been There, Done That." Um, so he was at a space in life where he was really trying to do something different. He still wanted to bring that boom, bap, hard hitting hip hop to the table, but something a little more creative. So we were out there. He treated us very, very well, very respectful. I think the problem that I encountered is because it was like a turning point in his life, he signed a whole bunch of artists and didn't know who to specifically put his attention and talents toward and on. So you have to keep in mind, not only was I signed at that same time, but Eve, who went on to be the first lady of Rough Riders fame, she was signed at the same time. Dawn Robinson from In Vogue, King T, who is one of my favorite artists of all time. So we all know how this story goes. The dope, illustrious Slim Shady, aka Marshall Mathers, aka Eminem. So he's got all this talent at the same time. So I think looking back in retrospect and from what I've gathered from other sources, um, the powers that be, Jimmy Iovine and a lot of those guys up there, made Eminem the top priority, and told Dr. Dre that basically this is what he needed to concentrate on immediately and forthright. And we all pretty much, I mean, it was like, I'll put it to you this way: Dre told me, and this is what I always appreciated about him, is honesty. He said, "Listen, with what I got right now, and what I'm working with, your project may not come out for another 2 years. If that's something that you're comfortable with, you'll have a place here at Aftermath. If not, I won't hold you up, and I'll let you go pursue your career the way you see fit." So I chose the latter. I knew that at that time, unfortunately, in terms of industrialized hip hop, unless you're extremely successful out the gate, there's sometimes a small window for exposure. So I chose to say, "Listen, I appreciate the opportunity you've given me. I know that you have your hands in a lot of other projects right now. I'm going to gracefully bow out and take my talent somewhere else." And what I respect about Dre is he didn't keep me in a lot of paperwork and a lot of, red tape over time. It was pretty fast. I think within a matter of months, I was on Interscope respectively, and that aftermath situation was behind me. But again, nothing but love for Dre. He always was forthright. We didn't see eye to eye in terms of timelines and things of that nature, and when projects should come out. But he was always 100 with me, and I was always 100 with him.
And also in 2003, you actually signed with Ruckus Records. Can you tell us a bit more about that record deal? And also, do you maybe know why they stopped releasing music?
Yeah, now that was more of a heartbreaking experience than anything because if you remember Raucus, at during that period, they were touted as the quote unquote hip hop label, where artists who were absolutely that artists were encouraged to cultivate their talents and bring out the best boom bap hip hop records of that era. And I mean, for a minute they did. Look at the work of Black Star. Look at the work of Smith and Wesson during that era, or as I should say, the Cocoa Brothers. Salute to the Cocoa Brothers. Look at look at Pharoah Monch. You know what I mean? Look at Company Flow. I mean, the list goes on. They put out a lot of dope records, but unfortunately, the administration over there at Rawkus began to have desires of competing with the larger labels, the Def Jams, you name it, the ones who were selling billions of records or whatever the case may be. Um, so they began to alter their practices of, the level of creative control that certain artists had began to diminish. So it's like I got there, I had a pretty much a project that was ready to rock and roll. I remember one incident in particular. I had a record with, the Abbott, the RZA from Wu Tang Clan, and that was facilitated by again my mentor Prince Paul. Um, he had the record. It was supposed to be slated to go on, if I'm not mistaken, one of those sound bombing albums or something like that, and they dropped the ball. They fumbled the ball on it. Really, really dope record that I think would have put me out there a little bit more, and they fumbled the ball on it. For reasons that to this day I still, shudder to have a clear understanding on. But yeah, man, Raucus, that's where the real heartbreak. I became more disheartened with Raucus records than I did with the Aftermath situation.
And also, another record label that you were a part of is actually one that you actually formed yourself, which is called Red Planet Music. You actually released your debut album, Music, Magic, and Myth. I have to ask you, what made you decide to create your own record label at that time?
Basically, the two scenarios we just talked about. Uh, Many, the thing with most MCs, I know myself in particular, especially being a struggling, starving MC, is the whole notion of fresh rhymes. You want the rhymes to be fresh. You want the concepts to be fresh. You want the music and the songs to be fresh. And when you're going through label drama, now I have to definitely say that I've had, it hasn't been all doom and gloom. I consider myself to be a student in a much larger educational art form, if I can use such a term. Now, as a student, I've been in some of the best classrooms. I've been on records with Smith and Wesson. I've been on records with KRS One. I've been on records with the Abbott, the RZA from Wu Tang. So even though I went through label drama, I've had great learning experiences within the realm of hip hop. And so with the rhymes and the songs that I had accumulated at that point, I saw fit to whatever way I need to get this stuff out there, I need to get it out. So I formed with a group of talented individuals called the Red Planet Science Team. We put together some things and we just got that project out there. And again, some of the songs had been recorded as early as like 95, 96, and they were long overdue. But I finally got it out there.
And also, when I was doing my research for this interview, I also saw a picture on Google of yourself and Most Def. I have to ask you, How did you and Mos Def meet? And what's the story behind that? Like, what is he like as a person?
Most Def is one of the most talented, charismatic individuals that you ever want to meet. Very knowledgeable brother, not just about music, but about uh, culture, about American culture, about black culture. He's very well versed. He's a talented actor, and we both started out honing our craft and developing it at the Lyricist Lounge. And the Lyricist Lounge obviously was a place during the mid '90s, and I think they started it even in collage projects as early as the early '90s. It became a place for artists to basically make it or break it, to perform in front of a New York City audience. And as they say, if I can make it there, I can make it anywhere. And perform, and so any night that I perform, sometimes I get off stage and in the crowd, there'd be people tell artists that I grew up listening to telling me how dope they thought I were. I mean, people like Master Ace, people like Craig G, people like, I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. But definitely, it was an opportunity to make myself apparent to the New York City crowd during the you know how the mid '90s were, the grimy '90s, and Most Def and I were among some of the standout artists that performed at the Lyricist Lounge. But he's a really, really solid individual. Salute to Mos Def.
I have to ask you, did you guys happen to do any tracks together? Because I think Mos Def and The Last Emperor together on one track, my God, man, that would just light on fire.
Yeah, we tried to make that happen a couple of times, especially once I got to Raucous. But again, I don't know, that entire Raucous conversation. There are very many tales that someday I would have to tell about some of the things I witnessed there. Unfortunately, um, it never happened. But there was definitely a lot of opportunities that could have taken place, and for one reason or another, it just never happened. But yeah, I would definitely love to rock with Mos, and it'd be long overdue.
And also, you were set to release the album called Wizard's Wardrobe, but it never actually dropped. I have to ask you, what happened there? And do you think the world will ever get the opportunity just to hear that record?
Well, what we would do in light of that question is right here, right now on the phone during this interview, throw out the bat signal. We'll throw out, matter of fact, the Red Planet Science signal out to the other members of the Red Planet Science team, being King Ranks, being Bug, being Mega Demus, being Mantan, being Cousin Jimmy, the whole squad. Um, there are, I would say, a good 10 songs that were recorded. We were almost finished that, but unfortunately, again, with the life of an MC, a struggling rapper, sometimes life gets in the way. During that time, my mom, my old earth, became very ill. She's no longer here, but she was battling a heart situation. Um, some of the other members had, things going on in their personal lives that kind of pulled them in different directions. But there's music out there, and it is my desire to see those things come to fruition. And not even to toot my own horn, but during that time, sometimes when you're going through something really serious, you channel that energy into whatever it is you do artistically, whether it's painting, whatever. Some of the best writing I've ever done went into Wizard's Wardrobe. So that project exists, but it's kind of out of my hands right now. But again, we're putting a formal signal out to the members of the Red Planet Science team, and willfully we'll see that project come to light. But those songs are out there.
Hey, most definitely they hear this and make it happen. You know what I mean? Because I think that would be long overdue. Most definitely. Wizard's Wardrobe,
But,
hip hop needs it, especially during this time with all these whack rappers. Actually, I'm gonna take the rapper part back. When these whack individuals, because I can't consider that hip hop, are running around. We need that record.
bingo. Exactly. Exactly.
So I have to ask you, Emperor, what's next for you? Is there any projects or anything that you're currently working on that you want to promote to our live audience right now?
Definitely. Well, first off the bat, I want to give a shout out and salute to a very talented producer that I've been working with as of late, a gentleman by the name of Hawk Fillmore, who's also from Philly. Um, we've known each other for probably about upwards of 20 years, but never had, through mutual friends, but never actually worked together. I went to his home studio about 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, and he played me a project that he was working on. I'm sure many of your listening audience will remember Molly G of the Death Squad. He was a part of a group
Legendary.
called Illegal at one point. Well, he played me some tracks from his project with Molly G, and I was totally blown away. He threw me two beats and said, "Look, man, if you like what I'm doing, here's two beats. Let's see what you can do with this." Those two beats turned into four, turned into six, and eventually became a full-length project called The Last Emperor, and Hot Fillmore proudly present Jungle Jim Season 1. So Jungle Jim became a character that I always had in the back of my mind of introducing to a hip-hop audience, having been influenced not only by comic books, but also those old, like, 1930s, 1940s serials like The Lone Ranger or, Buck Rogers, Flash Gordon. A lot of the stuff that Steven Spielberg and George Lucas have their hands in when they come to movie making. Well, I thought, I want to do something like that for hip hop. Thus, we have Jungle Jim Season 1. We recorded that in 2018. The following year, we came with another project called The Last Emperor, and Hawk Fillmore present Lord of the Fly, which is a straight up Last Emperor project. So we're going to keep putting out projects as long as we have this chemistry, which I suspect will last for some time. We've got a project. I don't want to release the title just yet. That should be dropping perhaps late summer. So look out for myself and Hawk Fillmore and another follow-up album to Lord of the Fly. So far, it's I can't let the title out, but look for that later this summer.
And most definitely, when you say it comes out near the end of the summer, right when it starts getting cooled down, the Last Emperor is bringing the heat right back up.
Bingo.
So, Emperor, this is the time in the interview that I give a chance for the individual that comes on the platform, just a chance to give shoutouts to whomever you want to give shoutouts to, and of course your social media handles. That way, our listeners can give you a follow, and most definitely stay on the lookout for those new projects if they're not already doing so.
Definitely. Well, pretty much the primary social media source that I use for music is my Twitter account. That's at the Last Emperor. That's all caps THELASTEMPRO 13. That's the Last Emperor 13 at Twitter. People can reach out to me that way. And as far as shout outs, I just want to give a extra crazy strong shout out to West Philly, the entire Gray and Salam families, the Rome family. Shout out to Taj Mahal and the youngsters. Shout out to Brooklyn, my second home, Brownsville, Q, Blur, the entire Turner family. Shout out to the Beat Miners, Prince Paul, and all my Strong Island family. And I want to say peace to the nation of gods and earths and all the positive people throughout the universe.
And I want to say quickly, just before we wrap this up, I want to say, Emperor, thank you so much for just providing me with 30 minutes of your time, man. Like, I really have been a fan of your music since I was younger. A lot of your music really helped me get through a lot of difficult times in my life, man. So thank you so much for coming on my station, blessing not only myself but our listeners with your time, man. And just also thank you so much for everything you did within hip hop.
And then salute to you and what you're doing, especially during this time of turmoil. It's very, very important that we have accurate journalism as far as hip hop is concerned. And again, for you to have people like Positive K, growing up, I was a huge Positive K fan. A great combination, and all of those records. I just the other day was listening to Positive K and Bar Shaw off the First Priority album. I mean, just impeccable journalism. You know how to ask the right questions, and I'm going to continue to listen to what you're doing, and we appreciate you as well.
I have to say that means a lot coming from an amazing individual like yourself. Thank you so much, man. I'm actually lost for words at that statement. So, just being able to hear that from a legend like yourself is it's phenomenal. Thank you so much.
Salute, bro. I'll be tuning in.
Most definitely. You have yourself a wonderful night, and try and stay safe out there during this terrible pandemic.
Likewise, you as well, my friend. May the force be with you.
And you as well. May the force be with you. Thank you so much.